U.S. Coast Guard, Ventura. Yeah, cop, been a major explosion top of the World Trade Center. Looks like a plane hit it.
9/11 holds a place in the history of New York City and of our nation as one of the great disasters. The Holland Tunnel was shut down. The path was flooded. The George Washington Bridge was shut down.
2 attacks there have been in Manhattan. 1 plane colliding with 1 twin tower. 18 minutes later, oh my God.
The only way for people to go to New Jersey is via boat. The Coast Guard saw the Sea of Humanity in Battery Park, and so they went on the VHF and said, calling all boats.
All available boats. This is the United States Coast Guard. Anyone who wanted help with the evacuation of Lower Manhattan, report to Governor's Island.
I need as many life vests!
And all of a sudden, we started seeing sightseeing boats, catamarans, small boats, tender boats. The United States Coast Guard estimate the total people taken off of Manhattan was 500,000 people.
Women and children first!
Which makes it the largest marine evacuation in history. My name is Peter Johansson. I was the Senior Director of Ferry Operations for New York Waterway. I was the person in charge of operations on the day when 9/11 happened. If I look back at 9/11, it was just azure blue skies. It was perfect temperature. I was scheduled to have a meeting with the Coast Guard. I got on the 840 ferry. We started out into the river. You're looking straight at Manhattan in all its glory. There's the Empire State Building straight ahead of you. I was talking to the captain, and I just happened to look up over my left shoulder and saw the first plane go past me and go right into the building. And there was an impression on the side of the building, like 45 degrees, that it went in. What was that? Was it navigation error? How could this happen? We saw out the other side smoke billowing. We docked at Pier 11. As everybody's walking off, there is paper fluttering down, and it was envelopes, and it was memos, whatever was on somebody's desk, because the wind was coming directly from the North Tower to where Pier 11 is. Whenever anything happened around the World Trade Center, we knew that people, if they couldn't go to the path system, they would come to us. And so I got on the phone and basically said, we're going to need to start sending more ferries down to the World Trade Center. At that time, our ferry fleet was about 24 boats. We were carrying about 33,000 passengers a day. We went right to the ferry terminal at the World Trade Center. The whole barge is filled with people. We can carry 150 people on our boat, and I stayed there. I went up to the top of the ramp and started doing crowd control. It was only about 5 minutes, about 9:03. I watch as another plane circles around the Statue of Liberty and heads right for the South Tower and the fireball as it strikes the tower. That changed everything.
Terrorist shit, man.
That is it. This is terrorist.
You're not going to have 2 accidents at the same time. We're under attack. I have to stick with what I need to do, and that's safety of people and getting them out of there. If anybody showed up that was injured in any way, we made sure we got them to medical attention. If anybody showed up and they were covered in debris, they set up a system on the other side where they would hose them down, decontaminate them. People lined up to get on those boats, and the lines stretched northward and southward for about 20 blocks. So we continued the evacuation until the first building came down. You heard this rumble and you felt the shaking. All of a sudden, this cloud goes past us. I remember putting some cloth over my mouth and just running. At this point, they've just shut down all traffic in and out of the city, so the only way for people to go to New Jersey is via boat. The Coast Guard saw the sea of humanity in Battery Park clamoring to get out of there. And so they went on the VHF and said, calling all boats.
All available boats. This is the United States Coast Guard. Anyone want to help with the evacuation of Lower Manhattan, report to Governor's Island.
And this was the first time that they had ever done that, to put out a plea and say, if you can respond as a mariner, can you come down here and rescue people? And all of a sudden, the tugboats that are in Staten Island tied up, the fishing boats that are in Sheepshead Bay or on the Jersey Shore took their lines off and headed that way. We started seeing sightseeing boats, catamarans, small boats, tender boats. And you know what? We were thrilled to have them.
Okay, folks, you want to keep coming down? We got more room.
Watch your step, watch your step.
The Coast Guard had people on the ground there at Battery Park telling them, you can take 50 people, you can take 75 people. And then they would direct them where they're going to go.
I can't believe it, man. I'm fucking numb. I can't believe it.
He's got a boatload again.
Every boat was completely full every run. People were waiting 3 or 4 hours to get on a boat, and they were happy to do it. They just kept saying thank you. As the day went on, there was some interesting rescues that our people did. There was a guy who strapped soda bottles to his body and tried to swim across the Hudson. And our guys picked him out of the water. And it was just like, you're crazy. A boat would pull in, load up 400 people, would pull away, go straight across, would discharge those people, and just coming back and forth. And we really kept that pace through the night, even into the wee hours. The United States Coast Guard, when they look back at the boat lift that occurred on 9/11, they estimate the total people taken off of Manhattan was 500,000 people, which makes it the largest marine evacuation in history. Sometime after midnight, I got in my car and I had this urge to go home. Probably got home at about 2:30 in the morning, and I went and I kissed each of my children. They were all sleeping, but my wife had been waiting up for me. She had been a nervous wreck the whole day. She appreciated the fact that I came home. I think of the notices that people posted for their loved ones. It was heart-wrenching, just because you knew that most of those people were never coming back. And some of these people you recognized because you saw them on the ferries all the time. My neighbor 2 doors down was at the top of the North Tower, and he lost his life, and we lost a number of people from my town. It was also very personal. I always considered myself a very healthy person. 2014, turned out I had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, stage 4. It's one of those cancers that are very common amongst people who were exposed to 9/11.
Building debris is covered in asbestos.
We've had a number of people who worked for New York Waterway who were in that zone for a long time who have passed away. It's a sad reality. I'm just very fortunate. I am in remission for 7 years now. I pride myself on being a native New Yorker. My parents grew up in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, and they moved the family out in Long Island, which is where I grew up. And it gladdened my heart when I saw the response of New Yorkers to how they helped each other post 9/11. Nobody wanted to have this sense of defeatism. The sooner that we opened things up, people felt good about that. The city never ceases to amaze me how it reinvents itself. It's not surprising to see the success of the boat lift, because throughout your mariner career, you are trained over and over again to respond to emergencies. We had a little saying at the school I went to: if somebody yelled one hand, everybody came running. Basically, one hand for the ship, but one hand for everybody to help.
Yes, Captain, you need any help evacuating the people from Manhattan? We're at off Governor's Island. We're a tugboat. U.S. Coast Guard, this is Pleasure Vessel. I started off Manhattan. If you need our assistance, we can come in and pick up people. Yes, sir. This is a private yacht Avante. Would you like us to try to evacuate anybody off the North Seawall of us?
I'm very proud of the fact that I was in charge of an operation that evacuated between 200 and 220,000 people from Manhattan that day. The fact that I was there is important, but there's a lot of people that were there with me. And the crews of our boats, they were heroes. And I would just like to recognize them for all that they did that day. 9/11, I was there. And if I have to take away something from my experience, is that the world can change in an instant. Be ready to respond and to have a positive impact.